For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
This podcast is supported by FX's English Teacher. Last year's critically acclaimed series returns to follow Evan, Gwen, and Marky as they vie for their students' divided attention. See why Cosmopolitan called its premiere season a masterclass of comedy, while Glamour raved it's the year's funniest and most heartwarming new comedy series. FX's English Teacher, all new Thursdays on FX. All episodes now streaming on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samara Origins by The Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samara Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samara. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samara Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Tom of Padma, Tom, Gail, or Eric Repair, who do you want to be stuck in the Sonoran Desert with for 24 hours?
Easy answer, Gail. Feel like she'd have the right disposition, the bubbly, just very positive. I need an optimist. I'm going to need all I can help to keep my temperament high and feeling good. I think Gail is my pick. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, bad question, easy answer. That's the problem. This is Pack Your Knives. I'm Kevin Arnovitz.
And I'm Tom Haberstroh.
Tom, the finale from Tucson, Arizona, the Sonoran Desert. No encumberments, no rules, just 4 courses. As Evelyn said, just let me cook whatever the F I want. And that is what we saw. And we had longtime guest judge and haute cuisine master Eric Repair. We had our usual 3, our triumvirate Top Chef judges. And we had Buddha, Sarah, whose rousing comeback from Last Chance Kitchen placed her in the finals. And we had Evelyn Garcia, home field advantage. And as I said, kind of carrying the Chef Gregory, cooking on all cylinders, all taste profiles, beautiful and symmetrical and whatnot. That's where it is. I just want your early impressions. Are we going to be joined by a special guest, Tom? Please tell us.
We are, Kevin. You buried the lead. Sara Welch is going to join us later in a few minutes. She was kind enough to join us. We tried to get her on a couple weeks ago, and she was unavailable to come on, but she was saying anytime. And she stayed on to the show. She hit the finale. So we are going to have Sara onto the show. And no one had a crazier ride on Top Chef than Sara. I mean, going from one of the first picks from Kevin down to Last Chance Kitchen. I think she won 7 or 8 straight in Last Chance Kitchen to get back onto the show and earn her way to the finale. We're going to talk to her in a few minutes here. But, the finale was a classic finale. It was they were producing at a very high level. My scorecard here, Kevin, I had it as a tie if I was just doing points for each course, who finished in first, second, and third. I thought Evelyn had a very, very strong performance. And I actually had it as a tie in terms of points, but I gave it to Buddha just overall, which ended up being correct. Buddha with the victory.
I got to tell you, let's just run through it because I had it decisively for Buddha. I had the first course, obviously the 3 Michelin star, as Tom said, he won that. Disclaimer, as always, we have not tasted the food. We're just sort of judging from presentation plus commentary. I had Sara second with the venison and beef heart tartare, and I had Evelyn third with the scallop crudeau, though not a distant third.
No.
It was such a less ambitious dish. It was a crudeau.
I know, but
it was a crudeau whose scallops were not well salted. Like, I'm sorry. The other one was a venison beef heart tartare, making your own bread, churning your own butter, sourdough miso. Like, I don't even know, and by the way, I don't eat venison or beef heart, but I don't know in what universe that finishes behind a scallop crudeau where the scallop wasn't salted.
I thought that they had much higher remarks for the crudeau, even though I think one person mentioned that the salt, it needed a little bit more salt. But
no, a couple of people said the salt would be very welcomed, and El Capel said the salt would be very welcomed. And Tom Colicchio said it right off the bat. I just like in terms of technical, in terms of like, I don't, look, you and I didn't taste it. There's no world where, I'm sorry, a scallop crudeau with some shaved radishes and, finishes above a venison and beef heart tartare that look like that with homemade bread, churned butter, homemade sourdough miso. I mean, like, come on, man.
Look, I'm getting this out now before Sara comes and joins us, but I thought that she was told that her tartare was under-seasoned as well. So she didn't nail her protein. And you can argue, hey, what's the difference between an uncooked scallop and an uncooked slab of beef or venison?
Well, I mean, you have to, just like chop up the heart. And I mean, you gotta treat that. And I mean, it was unique, and she's making these elements out of nowhere. I don't know, man.
Moving on to the second one. I had Buddha, then Evelyn, then Sara. Second, I had Evelyn first with her crystal dumplings, a flawless dish. Gail said it looked like little jewels in there with the shrimp and corn broth and hoja santa oil and crispy ginger. Buddha had the laksa with cannelloni, lobster, king crab, carrot, butterfly, Tuli, and then Sara with the squash dumpling that just didn't quite hit the mark. A little too much going on. The pasta was a little too thick, they said. So I had Evelyn, Buddha, then Sara on that one.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty easy one to score. Yeah, the tuile. It was the butterfly tuile. I was very amused by this dish because I loved how Repair, who's sort of a guy who came up in the 80s and 90s, said, it reminded me of the 80s and 90s. And he's right? Like there is very much a kind of a Christian Bale American Psycho.
This is Dorothea?
Good evening. Yes, dear. Courtney, you're going to have the peanut butter soup with smoked duck and mashed squash. New York Matinee called it a playful but mysterious little dish. You'll love it. And then the red snapper with violets and pine nuts. I think that'll follow nicely.
It looked like that food. However, I do agree that I think the 80s and 90s, I mean, we are drowning in 90s nostalgia right now. I have not read the Chuck Klosterman book yet. You might have.
It's on my nightstand.
The 80s and 90s coming back. I don't have a problem with a young chef like Buddha, who can't be older than 30. It's new to him, but I was very amused by Repair's sort of critique of it. But yeah, it was the easy second place. And Sara just kind of, Three Sisters salad is one of those things where it's like, does anyone really love it? Squash, corn, and beans. By the way, 3 things I love independently or prepared beautifully and creatively, but just sort of as a, it's like I've said this about bean salad before. Nobody really likes bean salad. Nobody wants that. But yeah, the squash dumpling came in third. The Vita Coche puree looked actually interesting. It was a good dish conceptually, but just clearly was the weakest of the 3. Third course, Tom, Mongolian lamb with eggplant from Buddha. We had goat curry / mole with some nopales and spiced squash seeds and raisin from Evelyn. And we had a rabbit ballotine from Sara. I've got to imagine you had it how I had it, which was Buddha, Evelyn, Sara.
That's correct. It hurt to see Sara realize that her rabbit ballotine wasn't cooking properly, and she still had to go with the plate on the kind of the greens there, the herb salad with apricot and chestnut. Just wasn't cooked all the way through. Is a little uneven on the cook, but I loved her mentality on this. We'll probably talk to her about it, but just using the whole animal and no food waste. I thought that was really clever as a through line to all her dishes. But yeah, with the goat wasn't cooked properly. I guess they said the goat was cooked well, but they wanted the mole curry to be cooked within it, and it didn't really come in through. And I got to be honest, it wasn't the most pretty dish to look at, and I know we're not supposed to score it that way, but I kind of felt like the other dishes scored extra points there.
No, I think you're allowed to, Tom. I mean, I think you're allowed to take into account presentation, but as Padma pointed out, I mean, I think kind of the beauty of a curry is sort of the protein almost braises in the sauce. Same, maybe mole a little less so, but it was a topper, right? Like it was really goat smothered in a curry mole sauce. And which frankly, listen, I never want to minimize the preparation that goes into mole. It's an incredibly intricate dish. And I imagine that, hey, I will eat Evelyn's mole all day. But I think in terms of technicality, it's an okay dish. To your point, I think I liked Sara's menu the most. I really liked conceptually what she was doing, the way there was a through line. As I did Buddha's and as I did Evelyn's, but I really, with Sara, it was really execution. One thing I will say before we go to dessert is I disagree with you a little bit in the sense that I gotta be honest, relative to other finales, I don't think the cooking here was up to par. It just wasn't, right? We had, basically in terms of sort of orgasmic dishes, it seemed like Buddha's triple star hamachi with wine sauce, caviar, and radish was there. Evelyn's shrimp and corn dumplings with crystal dumplings clearly had an audience there. I don't know that it was like transcendent, but other than that, I would say Sara's acorn cake, which we'll get to in a second. Like, 3 out of 12 dishes were really A's, and I feel like in many seasons, the finale is just A after A after A. We are sitting here splitting hairs to determine, we had some thuds. A ballotine that wasn't cooked correctly, a squash dumpling dish that didn't work. Both of them for Sara. A goat curry, which kind of frankly was a little staff mealish. But, just in terms of conception. Buddha's laksa, I looked fantastic. And clearly that was sort of a polarizing dish. I think Padma was ready to declare it one of the best dishes of the night. Others were less impressed. And, Buddha's dessert was a little underflavored. The panna cotta from Evelyn was But my point is I don't know that this was sort of a final for the ages, Tom. I don't think we'll put this one in the vault and send it off to Cooperstown. You know what I mean? That's
fair. I thought that overall it was a good finale, maybe not perfect. We've seen some perfect ones. I thought that Buddha, his pumpkin pie dish with the leaves, was the most visually stunning dish I've seen all season. And the fact that it didn't land, I thought the caramel was a nice touch inside. But Buddha, to me, if I guess I scored it a little bit strong for Evelyn. I think your overall points.
Wait, who did you have first?
I had Buddha for sure.
For the dessert?
Oh, for the dessert? No. I had the acorn cake from Sara. Just by far, I thought it was they were just raving on that dish. And then Evelyn's second and Buddha's dish third. And I don't know how you saw it, but that's how I had it.
Yeah, look, Sara winner. I could have gone either way on Buddha and Evelyn. The desserts I find particularly hard to handicap from a non-taster's point of view, right? Other than to go by the judges. The judges' knock on Buddha's dish was the proportions were a little off. Too much pumpkin spice cake, not enough maple caramel, maybe chantilly cream. And then Evelyn, the knock is the panna cotta was too gelatinous, right? Even though the buñuelos themselves were gorgeous. So yeah, like you, I might have, it's just judging from their comments that Evelyn might have gotten a slight edge. But it's funny. 1, 2, 3, and you've pointed this out in previous seasons. If we were distributing 10 points overall, it seems like it would be a 5-3-2 or a 6-2-2. It seemed like the favorite was Sara's. followed by Buddha and Evelyn very close together. But yeah, I'm fine with your rankings. But it seemed like Buddha and Evelyn were both kind of neck and neck there.
So Buddha comes out with the victory. I was a little surprised, but he wins just in the sense of all-time cheftestants. I wouldn't say this was the strongest field, but Buddha certainly was a deserving winner. He had 4 wins in this season, including the finale, and he had 4 top 3s. So that's 8 of the 14 competitions or challenges. He finished in the top 3, 8 of the 14. He had a couple bottom finishes, but just a really strong season for Buddha.
Yeah, Tom, where does that rank like in terms of the legends? Is Buddha among the 19 champions? And granted, things have evolved over the years. Like, where does that place him in terms of dominance?
It's got to be. I haven't done the math on it, but it's up there. He's definitely one of the better champions that we've had. I was surprised to learn that he had only won 3 times this season heading into the finale. Doesn't that feel low for Buddha?
It does.
It's not the highest. I mean, Paul Key in his season, he just pretty much ran the table. And so I think when you and Melissa, when she was on the All-Stars, she had 6 wins before the finale and then she won it. So, Buddha was, I would say, probably top 7 in terms of all-time contestants, I would say. So he would be in the upper echelon. I thought he had a really strong year.
I enjoyed the whole Buddha experience, the kind of combination of haute cuisine from training from the masters combined with the kind of Malaysian cuisine, just the laksa. There were so many nice notes that he brought from there. Chinese heritage, Australian, just Oceania, that whole kind of region. It was a good experience. I enjoyed Buddha immensely. Before we bring on Sarah, let's dish on the season. I don't want to insult anybody. Give me from 30,000 feet, your impressions. Give me the state of the union, Tom. Is the state of Top Chef is strong? I mean, where are we on sort of the season as a whole? This is a show that's going to probably have as many seasons as there are lives. I mean, we are going to, the show is not going away. It is a huge hit for Bravo. It is likable. Food is something that I don't think will ever. We have to eat every day. It's a formula that works. I imagine it's pretty reasonable to produce. So in the lifespan and the life cycle of Top Chef, where are we?
I don't need fake conflict. I don't want contrived conflict. I don't want disingenuous conflict, but this show does need a little bit more conflict. It needs a little bit more just stakes to it. And because we love Last Chance Kitchen, we don't want to knock that. But it did feel that there was a lack of tension in this show, whether it was the stakes or whether it was just the competition. It didn't seem super competitive. And I think they've bended towards that over the last few seasons with the All-Star, and they're having a lot of chefs that get along well. And I think this season crystallized that I want to bring back some more villains. I want to bring back some people who are heels on the show, not necessarily in a really dangerous way, but I do think that it is a little too nice. It felt like Soft Chef this year a little bit. And I really think our next guest here coming up in a minute, it would have been this season. You've mentioned this. It would really, really, really have benefited from her presence on the show because she is a really strong personality. And I felt like this season did lack a little bit of that pop. And Jackson, that storyline we forget because he was eliminated midway through the season. That was pretty compelling. The fact that he didn't have any taste or smell from COVID and he was hiding it from his teammates. That was interesting. But I would say, of the Top Chef seasons that we have had, this would probably go in the bottom half of the most compelling TV we've watched on Top Chef. But I would say Buddha, the fact that he won, he was a very deserving winner. And I just wish we saw Sarah more.
Whether it's villains or heels, I'm not sure. Friend of the show, Austin Tedesco, we were at dinner the other night, and he brought up a good point. And it's really about kind of the competitiveness. He sort of, you remember in his first foray into the show, Kevin Gillespie sort of looking at the camera and saying, I really want to win. That if you think about the testimonials over the years, just the sheer desire of these chefs looking at the camera, and you got the sense of import and stakes from them, like winning was a big deal. And I started thinking about this season. did any single time, did any of these chefs kind of look at the camera and say, I really want to win. I'm going in this challenge and I want to beat them. And by the way, it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be mean. But I think what I've lost from the show and what I feel like the show has lost a little bit is just the sheer stakes, that the difference between winning and losing Top Chef, that delta used to be really broad. And not that it was, you're going to go back to your miserable life as a sous chef if you finish sixth and you'll never be heard from again in the culinary community. But I do think that it has lost the sense of urgency that those chefs sort of looking into the camera and saying, it's really important that I win. I've got to win. I'm going to go all the way. And I think that's something we've talked about it a little bit. There's sort of a social function here. I think because frankly, the cost of not winning is not that great. You can still go on and be part of this larger diaspora of Top Chef people and do your fun things. And by the way, that's great. Like, I think, look, one of the things that Top Chef has done, that's not a bug, it's a feature, is it has given young chefs a platform to look. I'll be honest, Tom. I mean, Shota didn't win, and the less we say about his staff meal, the better. But I go on his Instagram videos all the time to get pointers for making sort of fish and Japanese food. Like, I'm not dismissing the value and just what a great development it is that these chefs, I don't care if you finish second or seventh or eighth or whatever, have an opportunity to kind of continue to communicate with the fan base, to share their techniques, to share their passions for the food they do. But I think an unintended consequence has been that the stakes have never been lower for winning Top Chef. Hey, you finish eighth, come on back, you'll be a guest judge. Look, I'm not about humiliating eighth place finishers or anything. I mean, but it's just like the prestige has been lost a little bit for winning or even getting to the finale. As long as you're part of the gang, you're part of the gang. And that's great. I mean, these are all talented chefs. I mean, the 11th best Top Chef contestant on any given season is insanely talented. But I do think, to your point, yes, some conflict is really, really needed. But even devoid of conflict, I will just take like competitive juice. Like, I want to freaking crush this challenge.
Right. And that's born out of the tension or
yes, like, you're absolutely right.
If there's conflict, that you're bringing out your competitive nature when there's conflict. There's someone you really want to beat because I can't stand that other person, or I can't stand the way they cook, or whatever it is, the way their approach and their temperament on the show in the room. It did feel like we've lost a little bit of that. And you're right. It does feel like the stakes of winning Top Chef have never been lower. And I do think a lot of that is, like you said, the cost of losing. You're still going to be part of the diaspora, like you said. So let's get to Sara.
Let's do that. Let's actually talk to someone who knows something about this.
Let's bring her on. Sara Welch, who, look, Kevin, when we talk about survivors on this show or people who have been so persistent, when you talk about, Kevin, that need to win, how about winning like 7-8 straight last chance kitchen challenges to get back onto the show?
I'm very excited to have her here.
Sara has joined us from work. It is an absolute pleasure to have you on to Pack Your Knives, Sara. Congratulations on getting to the finale and producing at a very high level. I want to eat that acorn cake right now. Can you send it to me in this Zoom? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I'll get right on that.
I don't know how much you've listened to the show, Pack Your Knives, this season, but we have been huge fans of yours. And so this is a huge privilege to have you on.
I have binge listened to the entire season. Buddha actually got me hooked on it. He was like, do you listen to Pack Your Knives? And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, you got to. And so I started listening like pretty late into the season. We joke about it. I was like, do you just want me to listen to this because you want me to hear about you? Or but it ended up being like a really fun thing that we kind of shared. It was great.
I mean, what most surprised you about being on the show?
Oh, gosh, so many things. I guess in the beginning, it surprised me how much went into the actual production of the show. You're literally like in kind of complete quarantine from friends, family, and each other. And so it starts out as like this really lonely and alienating experience. And then by the end, it's the exact opposite. And then I guess post-production, I was just really impressed with how authentically everybody was portrayed. I think before you go on the show as a person, you're like, oh man, I wonder if I'm going to get like, you know, the bad edit. But like everyone was portrayed so true to themselves, and I was so relieved and embarrassed, but also relieved to know that they weren't like spinning us a certain way.
I read that you tried out for Top Chef twice, or the first one you were like 4 years before you actually got on, and I wanted to hear about that experience of auditioning for Top Chef and that road to getting there. Did you have like a mentor, someone who looped you into the Top Chef universe, or how did you even get to that point?
Yeah, so I was running a different restaurant in Detroit and got let go like pretty dramatically. And James Regato found my phone number and called me, and we hadn't had much of a relationship up until that point. And he was just like, "You're going to be totally fine. Like, I know this is a hard time and I know this like sucks, but you're going to be fine. And also like, we're holding like an open casting for Top Chef at my restaurant. You should come and try out." And, you know, being jobless, I was like, okay, sure. So I like went and did the trial cook. And they loved everything, but they were just like, "You're a little young." And at that point, like I didn't have much credential. You know, I hadn't like been recognized by James Beard or won like any best new restaurant stuff aside from like the brief stint with Eater at my restaurant in Detroit. So yeah, they reached back out this past year, kind of while we were surviving COVID at Marrow and our other restaurant. And they were like, "Now's the time." And I was like, "Really? Now?" And I had agreed to open a restaurant with my fiance. And so I was just like, it's a rough time. It's a rough time, but I did it.
At the risk of flattery, I was so happy you were back, just because, I don't know, I think the show really relies on the voices of the chefs. The food's going to look great. We can't taste it, which is the only failing of the show. Is, you know, unlike Project Runway, where I can see the fashion, this relies on taste. But so I think it's just it's such a character-driven show for that reason. And I have loved your combination of self-deprecation, self-awareness, and your food looks great. And so I was so happy you worked your way back through Quickfire Challenge. Who was your best friend on the show?
Oh, that's like picking between your children.
Oh, it's Robert. You picked Robert for the finale.
Honestly, in the beginning, it was Robert. I think post-production, Buddha and I have just been talking so much. We joke that like Australian humor and Detroit humor is the same humor. Yeah, I think I'm really close with Robert. Buddha and I talk a lot. Just we're both kind of very analytical, I think. We kind of just like geek out about stuff and laugh about the same thing. So I would say probably those two, yeah.
What is Buddha? I found his food to be amazing. I mean, I drafted him number 1 overall on my team, and Kevin drafted you, and Robert number 1 and 4. You had that?
Brutal.
Yeah. You guys got bounced in the same episode, and then Kevin just absolutely demolished me in the fantasy points. Buddha, what's so fascinating about him to me is the way he cooks and how pretty it is and how technical it is. And he could have come off as a total snob and someone who was a scholar of Top Chef and just nerded out on Top Chef history. He could have come off as someone who was just unlikable. I found myself just loving that dude. And I feel like his personality was, I don't know, he just seemed a lot more likable than I thought just the on paper Buddha might seem. I don't know if that's a compliment. I don't know what I'm trying to get at, but certainly. I just felt, do you get what I'm saying? It's just, he's just super likable, but he could have, the way he cooks and how perfect everything was, it seemed like he might have like a stick in his ass, up his ass or something like that. No, he's just a great dude, it seemed.
Yeah. I think you get two different versions of him, right? Like, I think you get in the game Buddha, and then you get Buddha immediately post game, right? And it's like, those two people have the same bones and they're the same character, but they read totally different. So when you're in competition, like Buddha's not laughing at my shitty jokes and he's hyper focused and he is spending all the time that I'm spending like joking around, like, you know, putting a ton of precision into his dishes. But that person is there when, you know, the clock goes off. And I think that the fact that they captured both sides of him is really important to that narrative, but it also is really him. And so I think when you're watching the show, so much of it is watching us cooking. And when he's cooking, he is very serious, as he should be. But those moments outside of the competition, which for us was the vast majority of the time. I mean, we're filming for 1 or 2 hours at a time, and we're around each other for the balance of that. He is a fun, hilarious, like really authentically genuine and cool person.
Something Tom and I have been talking about a fair amount. How competitive is it? And I asked this kind of on the heels of the Buddha question. Like, there were times in previous seasons where you just sensed that it's not so much that they disliked each other, but it was just competitive. And look, I'm friendly with a lot of Los Angeles chefs, and like, they can be salty people. They have egos. Like, you don't get into this business because you lack self-confidence. I mean, you get in because you want to make the best food.
Listener, listen up. This is important. Okay, I'm going to try to save you some money here. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. You may think like, oh, that's bad. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. Here's why I said yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 a month. You heard that correctly. $15 per month. Ditch overpriced wireless and the jaw-dropping monthly bills. And of course, there are all these hidden fees and stuff, but at Mint Mobile, plans start at $15 per month. All the plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text. You're not doing like weekend and nighttime minutes or anything like that. And it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone. Don't have to get a new phone. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. I switched months ago. People have asked, did you actually switch? Yes, I actually switched months ago, and I don't know what to do with all this extra money. I've cheated the system here. I've rigged something. This is an Ocean's 11 situation where I'm stealing wireless from Mint. That's how good a deal it is. Ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/dings. That's D-I-N-G-S. That's mintmobile.com/dings. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Quince and their cookware. Cooler nights mean cozy meals at home, and Quince's cookware has made fall cooking so much more enjoyable. Their pieces deliver the quality and performance of luxury brands, but at a price that makes sense. And they look gorgeous on the stovetop, too. No matter what item you need to complete your kitchen, Quince has you covered. With 5-ply stainless steel pots and pans, nonstick skillets, chef-quality knives, and even ceramic bakeware, which is perfect for cozy casseroles or Sunday roasts. And when you look at these prices, you might think, how is Quince doing this? How do they deliver high-quality items similar to high-end brands that are half the price? Well, let me tell you, they partner directly with ethical top-tier factories to cut out the middlemen and pass the savings on to you. And it's not just cookware. I got myself some bath sheets. That's right. When you're a tall man, you have to use bath sheets, not bath towels from Quince. It's like drying off with the cloud. It's incredible. Upgrade your kitchen for cozy fall meals with premium cookware from Quince. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/dings, D-I-N-G-S, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings. Hello, listener. It's Producer Maze here to talk to you about Kindred. Now, close your eyes like Owen Wilson during a job interview and imagine a way to travel that feels personal, comfortable, and connected without the price tags and the sterile feelings of hotels or short-term rentals. Now open your eyes and stop using your imagination because Kindred has made it very real. That's exactly what they do. Kindred is a members-only home swapping network. It's not a hotel. It's not a short-term rental. It's a smarter way to travel where each stay feels like home. Here's how it works. With Kindred, your home is your ticket. You earn credits by hosting fellow Kindred members, and then you use those credits to stay in over 220,000 homes in more than 100 cities worldwide. There are no hotel costs or rental fees just the credits that you've earned. Every stay comes with white glove service, 24/7 trip support, and $100,000 in host protection. Make it easier for you to travel and enjoy yourself and not worry about details. I've used Kindred and I found an amazing home for a weekend getaway in an idyllic location with amazing views and great ambiance. It had everything I needed. And the best part was, it cost me $0. So apply now at livekindred.com and use code DINGS to join for free. Plus, you'll earn 5 nights of travel credit just for signing up. That's right, that's 5 whole nights for free at livekindred, KINDRED.com, code DINGS, DINGS, livekindred.com, code DINGS.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pate. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in 1 convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
Imaginable. And I'm just wondering, like, on the floor, how competitive it gets, or is it just kind of one big love affair, which is sometimes from the outside how this season looked?
Yeah, I've heard you guys kind of speaking about how it's gone a little soft, and like I can understand that. I think, you know, in talking about Buddha a couple seconds ago, the question is like, would the cut or the edit have been that 10 years ago, or would he have been like a Marcel, right? Like, who knows, right? Like we can't say, and like a lot of what they choose to show is what they choose to show. But for me, this season seemed super authentic. It is really competitive, but I think you guys have noted that like post-COVID, the world is a little different. Like I think we're all a little raw still. And I think that so much of the food community right now is uplifting one another because we know that we've just been through like a war. Like I missed restaurant wars, but like secretly not bummed at all because I reopened my restaurant 9 times during COVID. Like the idea of opening a restaurant like for funsies is like not my bag. So I was like, everybody's like, are you bummed to miss restaurant wars? And I was like, truly no. Like I'd rather put all that stress and energy into the potential of reopening my restaurant for the next pandemic. But so I think everybody's like a little tender. And I think that it's the same way where like DeMar maybe 3 years ago on Top Chef, me taking his salt on day 1 of competition would have been like, don't touch my salt. Whereas this time he was like, okay, you know, like I think everybody's a little raw, I guess is the word.
This is my favorite explanation. It makes a lot of sense, right? Like what I hear you saying is, look, to be an intentional dick to, you know, another chef at this moment when everyone is having so much adversity or facing so much adversity, just to keep places open, to reopen, to fulfill plans to open that pre-existed COVID, that like the idea of being overly competitive when everyone is just trying to just get back to par would be
survive.
Right. Would be unseemly. Actually, Sarah, this is why I'm so happy to have you on. Like this is, and now I feel like a total creep.
Yeah. Now we're the dicks
for being like, they should be going at each other's throats.
No, don't. I love that version of the show too, you know, and like, I think you want it. Like you want to see people really cutting their teeth to be there. I think sometimes my humor came off, like you'll see on social or on Reddit, like people are like, she doesn't care. It's not that, it's that you're scared to care. Like we've all been through COVID trained to like tread lightly about giving a shit because you don't know. You just don't know if like this thing, I mean, Evelyn, right? She shut her restaurant in COVID. It's like, you just don't know if the things that the basket you're putting your eggs in is going to fall out. And so at least for me, I'm so trepidatious about investing too much in anything. And I think that showed in the competition for me is that I was scared to really enjoy it. And I was scared to really invest in it because I was like doing the I'm going to break up with you before you break up with me thing for Top Chef the whole time. But it's also like, this is in the last season, they were in full quarantine. And I think what you get into our season is a little bit of the awkwardness of everybody being like social again. Everybody's like, how do we behave in public? Right. But the world is going through that. So I think it's a lack of competitiveness out of compassion. And then also just like social awkwardness that everybody has right now of like, how do we be people again?
What a lovely answer, Kevin. Now we're just going to have to just put that take to the side. That was a really well put answer to our question. Cause it did feel like soft chef a little bit, but it makes so much sense now that you put it that way. And I think to get to the actual season, I had a couple like specific questions about this season. If you could just humor me, Jackson, true or false, you guys didn't know about his whole no smell, no taste thing until a reveal. I don't know if you were on the show at that point or if you were in Last Chance Kitchen, but did you know that he had COVID and he couldn't taste or smell?
Robert and I knew, but we didn't know that it was like this big secret. When we were like, we were tasting his tartare every second of that first competition. We were the first team. And he had said offhandedly, like, oh, my smell and my taste isn't quite there. And we were like, oh, he must have had COVID at some point. Like so many people we knew had COVID, so many chefs that we knew had COVID that it was like, for us, it wasn't like blockbuster, like, wee-oo. It was just like, oh, bummer. Like, that's probably going to suck. But I think Robert and I knew, and it didn't really matter to us. Like, we didn't see it the way it was kind of like it transpired over the course of the season, or maybe
it's like a bombshell. It was portrayed as a bombshell when he revealed to the group. Yeah.
And it was portrayed like it was weighing on him in confessionals in a way that I don't think anybody anticipated, but that looking at it hindsight really makes a lot of sense as to why he was so lacking in confidence, because he is so truly talented. And, I made a joke like midway through the season. I was like, Jackson, it was the ostrich egg thing. I was next to him and he kept being like, it's going to suck. It's going to suck. And I was like, if every time you said something sucks, like it goes like to the very top and you win, this is going to get really exhausting for me. And that continued to happen because I think he was just undercut. Like he genuinely didn't know if what he was making was good. Whereas like me, I was just being self-deprecating. Jackson like truly didn't know. But yeah, I was surprised to see post-production and then honestly the fallout on social, like how big of a deal it was to people, because for me, it didn't feel like he was like holding some big dark secret.
I'm fascinated with the variance in mental exercise between quick fire and regular Top Chef, and you made so many notes of it that, there can be analysis by paralysis when you're prepared, when you have more time to prep. And I loved watching you on Last Chance Kitchen. It was just kind of fun and just the sheer adrenaline jolt that clearly a company is trying to do something out of nothing in absolutely no time. I just wanted to hear you more on that, because it was, I don't know, you had a great run. And for those of us who dork out on this stuff, it's like, it's like you were this athlete who had this big 50-point streak every night for like 8 weeks.
Yeah, I think it was like fight or flight. I like black out. I never knew I made that many sounds while cooking under duress. I think that the biggest thing is, I said kind of like through confessionals and whatnot that you're playing a different game. You sincerely are. I'm really great at thinking on my feet. I have to do it in a restaurant every night. Like I'm in my restaurant making calls and kind of catching falling things from the ceiling all the time.
Literally juggling. Yep.
Literally. Yeah. Like putting out actual real physical fires. But like in the main competition, it's not just the extra time for me that screwed with me. It's the lack of people to collaborate with in that time. Right. And so it's like, I love a well thought out dish. Like I'd love to R&D, but it's not that. It's not active. It's not like we get the night to think about a dish with physical action to it. We just get to fret about it. And my mom always says worry is a waste of the imagination. When you're in your own head overnight thinking about a dish, but not being able to actually work through it with somebody or talk about it with somebody or actually physically do it yourself, you'd be surprised at like how much doubt can seed. And then that actually had a practical negative effect, which, the people, when I came back to the Burbo challenge, you guys saw that I kind of floundered a little bit. And I realized I was shopping contingencies all the time. So I was always shopping for 2 dishes in case one dish didn't work out, which meant I was doing twice as much thinking. I was doing twice as much shopping because I was like, if this doesn't work, I don't want to just serve nothing. And then when everybody in the main competition found out about that, they were like, dude, you have to stop doing that. Like, you have to stop divesting yourself of this dish, pick a dish, shop for that dish, and commit. And so that was the conversation we had kind of after I got, the harsh criticism. Because I was literally doing 2 dishes all the time, which is why, like, when I actually did 2 dishes, it went great. Cause like, I had always been thinking about 2 dishes. One was just my contingency plan if everything went south. So I had to relearn how to shop,
On that note, I had a question from Brian Hickson, a fan of the show, says, have you ever asked the Top Chef contestant how they prepare for grocery store trips on the show? Maybe there's more that happens off camera, but can you keep up with a budget amidst all of that? Not to mention, how do you plan? How much of everything to buy for hundreds of people? Can't be something they really master working in restaurants because you order for multiple days at a time. So how were those grocery trips? We don't really get too much of that. Are you like counting up how much money you've spent as you're doing it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, even though like we run, well, honestly, not that many people in the season run restaurants, private chefs like Robert or, Evelyn, this is a sweet spot for them. But most of us have done that kind of work in the past where we're doing small caterings or catering for X number of people or doing private events. So that math comes easier than you'd think. And I think it's that mentality of like home chefs watching you cook Restaurant Wars is like mind-boggling, but to people that have opened restaurants, it's more reachable. It's still impossible and hard, but it's reachable, right? The same thing with shopping. It's like going from a home person shopping for their weekly groceries to like what we do is a huge jump, but going from what we do, catering an event for 100 people, which we do kind of all the time, it's not that hard to make that jump. And you just make a really good list, a really good prep list. And then there were a couple times like I loaned Nick some money when I was under and he was over. Yeah. And you can do little things like,
whoa, breaking news.
Yeah, you could.
I don't know if the magical elves and Bravo is gonna be happy with this.
Yeah, or you can share ingredients. Like Robert and I would only buy garlic. One of us would buy garlic, and the other person would buy shallots. So you can share ingredients if you want to.
Alliances, I like it.
Maybe that's the softer side of Top Chef coming through, because maybe 2009 they would never do that. But
no, they would have been like when the guy wasn't looking, you would like throw the cabbage out of him.
Yeah, the pea puree. It's like that. No, but like, yeah, Robert and I would be like, you get oranges, I'll get lemon. Like, you get garlic, I'll get shallot. Like, we would split ingredients to kind of maximize our budget.
I wanted to ask you about growing up in Jamaica. It was this part of your bio. I was fascinated by what part of the island did you grow up in?
I use the word grow up lightly because I've gotten some heat on Reddit. But basically, so my parents have been together since they were 13, and they went to high school, met in high school, and like have been together ever since. And they kind of sold everything and just started vagabonding around Europe, and then they did the Caribbean as like, people did when the world wasn't so large and small. And they did all the islands in the Caribbean, and then they went to Jamaica and met a bunch of people and just started returning over and over to Jamaica. And they were looking to buy a house, and my father went out to buy a house, look at a property to buy a house. And he stumbled upon this he got lost, and he found this like 300 feet of beachfront in the middle of nowhere. It's in a place called Westmoreland, Jamaica. And he just like bought it. And him and my mom, my dad's was in real estate in Ann Arbor for a while, and he's kind of I don't know how to describe it. He's the kind of person that like has vehement passions for a period of time. So like he was like, I'm going to build a resort. And so he like drew it and was part of construction and like laid the cement and built the foundation and like built this small family resort in Jamaica. And we kind of grew up in between Ann Arbor and Jamaica with my parents. And because my mother was a teacher, we would get pulled from school and we'd get homeschooled in Jamaica. And we'd live there for, 2-3 months at a time for my entire life. And my dad was 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there for my whole life. And my parents were together, but so it's not like a broken home thing. It was just like a very bizarre juxtaposition of kind of going to Jamaica and being in Ann Arbor for my whole life.
And it influenced your cooking clearly?
Yeah, I think I didn't know it at the time. Like when you're a kid, you're not like, this will be influential. But for activities, for example, like we would have to, in order to cook, it was a very rural village that we kind of set up shop in. And so in order to cook, you would have to get charcoal, like go to this charcoal field where they burn wood into charcoal. And so in order to like cook we would walk to this charcoal field that was like 3 miles away, like load up charcoal and then bring it back. And that was like an activity. Like kids in Ann Arbor are like playing soccer, and like in Jamaica, I'm going to get charcoal and then going to fish boats and buying fish and then going to little shacks to buy like rice and salt and stuff to cook. And so the activity that like we did with our friends in Jamaica was cooking. And because my sister and I had access to like more disposable income, we would often fund those trips. And so we would like do these like cooking feasts kind of pretty regularly. And it just became a part of like what we would do. And it sounds really bizarre, but it was the activity. It was going to mango groves and like picking mangoes, or it was learning how to harvest coconuts for like 20-foot tall trees, and like all of these things that are day-to-day life for very young people in Jamaica that we kind of learned over time by living there on and off. So I was cooking and learning to cook at a really young age, but for the people that I was learning from, it was kind of laughable that I was like 13 and didn't know how to do like debone a fish, right? Like it was like, wait, what? Like I'm at home like making peanut butter and marshmallow fluff sandwiches in Ann Arbor, and then I'm like coming and learning how to make dumplings from just flour and water on a beach. And so it certainly set a seed of like wanting to know more about food from a very young age, but it was more fun based than like passion based, I guess, if you could say.
I really loved your through line for the finale. I wanted you to talk a little bit, if you could, about your restaurant, Marrow, and the hunter-gatherer, no food waste theme for your final cook, and just how much that means to you, that element of cooking.
They fly us to Tucson, right? And like originally everybody was like, womp, womp, Tucson. But then once we got there, it ended up being like really cool. And I, just in reading about Tucson, I found that there were a lot of commonalities between ingredients that were available in Tucson and ingredients that are available in Michigan. So things like venison or bushberries or acorns, some of the whole grains, like a lot of that were common ingredients. And so immediately I was like, oh, I can treat this kind of like building a Marrow menu. And I just, I kind of wax poetic about it on my Instagram, but I just think food should speak to a time and a place. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about the current food system and how changes that need to be made. And so to me, I don't want to feature pineapple in February in Michigan. It's not good for the planet, and it doesn't really make sense. Like pineapple is better eaten in the Caribbean where it grows, or in Hawaii where it grows. And so my menu was kind of a tribute to like Tucson and like being in Tucson, and that in combination with being me in Tucson alone, kind of on an island, and featuring the misos that I did was kind of my way of bringing Detroit to Tucson to kind of create a hybrid of those two things, because I couldn't bring a bunch of stuff from Detroit, but I could bring this like shelf stable miso with me that really reflects everything that I love about food, which is like turning trash into cash.
I want to know how to churn my own butter. Tell me.
Oh, it's so easy. It's so stupid easy. I remember we used to go to this like it's not stupid, but like, the Renaissance Festival, and like, or my dad would have us, I'll tell you the real way.
Were you reenactors?
No, no, we would just like go. Is that like the most Midwestern thing? I don't know. Or like my dad would put heavy cream in a Ziploc bag and make my sister and I, it's the perfect dad activity to keep your kids busy. He would make my sister and I hand churn butter in a Ziploc bag. But basically you just whip heavy cream until the buttermilk separates from the butter fat, and then you strain it. So heavy cream in a KitchenAid mixer, saran wrap around the top so that you don't get cream all over your goddamn kitchen, and then whip it until it breaks. You have the buttermilk and then the butter fat, put it in a chinois or a strainer, and then it strains off the buttermilk. And so the buttermilk went into my ice cream in my final course, and the butter was the butter that I served in the first course.
Does it turn yellow?
The butter, it depends on the quality of the milk and how high the butter fat content is. But yeah, it does.
And then I can infuse it with certain things. I want to get like really fancy, circa 2003 about things.
Oh, hell yeah. I would say that if you do churn it, like salt it and let it sit, because the salt will pull whatever remaining buttermilk is left in the butter out of the butter. So if you just make it and don't salt it, your butter will have some water in it. It's more likely to go bad. The reason why butter is shelf stable is because it's high fat, low moisture content. So you risk having your butter go bad faster if you leave too much buttermilk in it. And that's how they make cheap butter. They just leave more buttermilk in it. So if you salt the butter once you're done straining it from the buttermilk and then give it like an hour or two or even overnight and then massage it, you'll get like way more buttermilk out of it. And then your butter salted, which is a great kind of benefit.
So speaking of great father moments, Tom's dad jokes, did they ever get old? Caliquios?
Not for me. I think we have the exact same dad joke humor. So, and we're the only people that are laughing at our jokes. So it was perfect. Like he would laugh at his joke next to me while I was laughing at my joke. And that was like, that's what we did.
Because you heard a lot of them in Last Chance Kitchen. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's basically what Last Chance Kitchen is for, is just for him to do his comedy act.
Totally. And if they liked one, they'd make him like do it again. So it's like you got to hear the same bad dad joke like twice in a row. It's brutal.
Can you give us a rundown? Let's get your commentary on the final courses here. Your first course was a venison and beef heart tartare with sourdough miso and smoked butter. I told the audience at the top, I had Evelyn's dish was a little on the unsalted side. If we were scoring it, I felt like Kevin thinks your dish was better than Evelyn's. And I just want to hear, did you feel that way, that you had the best dish, the second best dish, the third best dish? How did you score yourself on that course there? Because it looked, I would order that dish in a second if I saw it on a menu. So how did it turn out for you?
I think it went well. I would agree with Padma that like my salt could have been a little bit higher. I had koji rubbed the heart with koji that I brought from home too. So it was super funky. And I think that for the judges, Eric, it was like not Eric Repair's bag. He, I don't know that Eric Repair has ever been forced to eat like beef heart tartare that's been koji rubbed. So I think it definitely didn't hit with him. Padma wanted more salt. I think I was probably in the middle on that one. But if only because it was something that maybe they hadn't seen before, whereas Evelyn's crudo, like they've seen so many crudos that tartares too, right? But like, I think making my own butter and the reason for making my own butter was like the ethos of the menu to follow. I think they kind of got behind that as at least driving a creative narrative, if not like groundbreaking food. Like I did not make tuile butterflies, so you would have had me on that. It was so beautiful.
I always like asking chefs about your local food scene, your place in the local food scene. I know very little about Detroit other than the Coca-Cola chicken wings at Flowers of Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
George is a friend.
I have not had them, but I have been told that when the Pistons get good and I am asked to go report there, that my first stop is to get Coca-Cola chicken wings.
For those who are listening at home in the Zoom, Sarah just did the whole face palm.
He's never coming to Detroit.
Right. Well, no, that's the thing. Like in Tom and I, like our travel destinations are directly proportional to the success of the NBA team.
And we will never meet.
Right. Like I've been to Memphis and a million times and Milwaukee, but I never get to Detroit because there's never a demand Pistons content. But I'm hopeful.
Hey, Sarah, when we were kids, the Pistons did win the 2004.
I used to watch. I have a Ben Wallace jersey.
Yes.
Nice.
That was the last time that I gave a shit about the Pistons, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. So tell me about what you're working on in Detroit, the scene there. I've got friends in Detroit in sort of areas that are sort of up and coming, and would love to hear kind of your back of an envelope like take on the food scene, what drives it, and also your place in it.
I would say that like I'm relatively new to the Detroit food scene, and so it feels kind of weird to be an ambassador for it. I don't have the deep roots here that a lot of people that cook here do have here. I'm an Ann Arbor kind of, I guess I moved from Ann Arbor to the Detroit scene a couple of years ago. So what I know of it is basically what has happened in the last like 6 to 8 years. And it's an exceptional city. There's a lot of agriculture happening in the heart of the city. And then there's a lot of, Michigan is a huge producer of both produce and protein for our area in the Midwest. So not just Detroit, but kind of Michigan as a whole is a really beautiful place to be making food right now. Speaking specifically to Detroit, it's growing so quickly. So the kind of people's departure out of Detroit was very rapid, and people coming back into Detroit is much slower. But I think over the past couple of years, specifically in the like last 2 or 3 years, I think that there's been a lot more density. And that's our biggest problem is that, we can have exceptional restaurants here, but we don't have the density of people living here to really sustain a bunch of really awesome restaurants. So unlike places kind of like I was recently in San Francisco, and they have exceptional Michelin star dining and exceptional cheap eats, and there's just no middle, right? In Michigan, we have a lot of middle, and we're just it's kind of hard to fill out the really top end dining because there's less of a market to service for that. So I think that what we're trying to do at Marrow is service two very kind of not contradictory, but different goals. We're in a neighborhood, so we want to be servicing that neighborhood and being like a neighborhood restaurant, but we're also using ingredients that cost us a lot of money to manufacture because we get them all whole. So we bring in whole animals multiple times a week. We have a butcher team that breaks down all those animals for our butcher shop. And then the restaurant functions kind of as a we joke about calling it our trash to cash, but like we take everything that the butchers don't think they can sell retail and we turn it into our restaurant menu. And so the menu changes really regularly. We're not the kind of people that put an order in with farms. We contact farms. And, the other day I was like, my friend Andy, who runs a couple farms in the city, I was like, Andy, what do you have? He's like, I have Napa cabbage. So he just brings 20 pounds of Napa cabbage and we're left to kind of figure out what to do with it. And that's how we run Marrow. And it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. And in the wintertime, our menu is mostly potatoes. But we do some preservation in the summertime to keep things interesting. And we do as much as possible to introduce people to the people raising their food, because I think that disparity is the biggest problem with our food system, is that people are scared of getting to know more about their food, and they should be, because the food system is really broken and scary. But we allow them a way to meet the people growing their food, to get more familiar with how their food should be grown, and then to empower them to make those decisions, both when they're shopping with us, but also when they're shopping and eating in other places. So yeah, that's kind of like Marrow in a nutshell.
So I want to get back to this, the courses here. You got second course, a squash dumpling with the corn husk broth, miso, the puree, and this Three Sisters salad. So they thought that the pasta was a little bit thick, but I thought that looked delicious to me from my couch.
Yeah, I think it was, editing is huge. Who is it? Sean Brock just recently posted something about like rules everybody should live by. And the first one was like, finish a dish and then pick one thing to leave off of it. I think for me, it's finish a dish and pick three things to leave off of it. Editing is so important. And I do it with my team here. And so I think in the vacuum that is Top Chef, I needed to do a lot more of that. And that dish, I think if it was just the tortellini that were filled with the squash miso and squash. If they were just in that corn broth with some hominy on top and the tortellini were thin enough, I think that would have been like a stellar, simple dish. And hindsight 2020, I'm just like, damn it.
Rabbit ballotine with apricot chestnut herb salad.
Yeah, that was a dumb dish to do for my entree. It was so hard. I was like,
she's shaking her head.
I ballotined turkeys for Thanksgiving this past year. We did like kits for the butcher shop. We sold like meals to make at home. And I was like, let's ballotine turkeys. And everybody's like, no. And then we did it. We like stuffed them with stuffing and it was a nightmare. And so I was like, let's shrink that like 90%, do it with rabbit. And so a lot of my day, genuinely, like I think I did 5 rabbits. I ballotined, like I completely deboned them. I made a farce, like a sausage to stuff them with. I turned all the livers into a sauce. It was a tall order for the day. And I think so much of my time was spent trying to get that right, that I wasn't paying attention to whether or not Robert was like rolling the pasta thin enough. And I wasn't paying attention to whether or not my dish had too many components. So I think like that was probably the Achilles heel of my final menu, was just like wanting to show full utilization so clearly in this one dish where every part of the rabbit was put to good use, that the idea took over the actual execution. And I hate that about food. I hate when it's a cool idea and the food sucks. And so it's like, it turned out to be this like, just, it sucks. It's like, I hate when thought, trumps flavor. It should never do that. Like food should fundamentally always be delicious first. And then everything else is cream on top. Right. But like that dish, I was so committed to like sending home this thing that I had sold them on. And this dish was like the crux of it, Yeah, I needed to not do that dish. But I will also say, like, things happen. Like the circulators didn't, of course, like the one time.
Yeah,
the circulators didn't circulate properly, so like it wasn't cooked all the way through beautifully, like it has been 100 times when I've done it here at Marrow.
Top Chef Illuminati. We gotta see if that was if someone
conspiracy.
got in there and sabotaged Sarah.
Yeah, so stuff like that where you're just like, okay, well, the 90 times I've done this rabbit ballotine before, and cirked it at this temperature, it's beautiful. It's beautifully cooked all the way. They're staring at you. You shit the bed. So that dish had the bones of being exceptional, and it suffered from being put under a shot clock, for lack of a better word.
True story. Tom and I, we were invited to Restaurant Wars Kentucky, had a lovely meal and a lovely experience, saw the absolute chaos up front, and we were served Ballantine. Remember, we had Brian's Ballantine?
Yeah, Brian Young's Ballantine.
Which was my first exposure to Ballantine.
What was it of?
Chicken.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and rabbit, you do the same temperature, same time. Like you treat it just like chicken, but sometimes it just doesn't work. I think that dish was really fun for me to make, and also brutal and stupid, but fun.
Fourth course, your acorn cake with buttermilk ice cream and calypso bean miso caramel. I mean, maybe the best dish that was served on the evening. From the responses, everyone seemed to love that one.
Yeah, I love cake and ice cream. Like fundamentally, my perfect dessert is a scoop of ice cream on warm cake. And I think acorns are so cool. People, it's a historic ingredient for Michigan and for the nation. But to make acorn flour, you have to blanch acorns 8 times. And every time you blanch, you change the water. And then you have to dry it and then mill it. And so very few people make why the hell would you do that ever? Unless you were starving, which, obviously like ancient peoples were. So to find acorn flour is like impossible, but it tastes like gingerbread and it has no warming spices in it. So when you eat it, it's like a gingerbread cake of like, it has this warm, nutty, delicious kind of, it's like a hug, right? But like, you're not putting cinnamon, you're not putting clove, you're not putting any of those aromatics into it. It just is that. That is the flavor of acorn. And I actually had Robert make the cake and he was like, this is very weird. And then he tried it. He was like, oh shit. Okay, I get it. This is great. So I love that dish. And I learned it from a chef that I worked for eons ago. And it's just kind of been something that I've always wanted to recreate.
Lastly here, did you feel like you had a chance to win after you finished everything? Did you feel like up at the judges' table that you could have been top chef?
It's a mental game for the entire competition. And I would say that my Achilles heel was I never thought I could win it. I didn't think when I got sent home, I was like, okay. And to be honest, like, my fiance, when I decided to go on the show, he was like, you have to believe that you can do it or you shouldn't go. But I've always been so supported by the community of people around me that I've never had to just like Sara Welch it through it. So I did have a lot of self-doubt and I had little goals. I had benchmarks. I was like, I don't want to be the first person eliminated. And then my goal was to beat any other Michigan chef. And then my goal, once I got into Last Chance, was to not go home on that first cook. And then it was to continue to win. And then once I got back in the competition, I was just like, what the hell? And Buddha and I have this running joke where like occasionally he would look at me and go, didn't you get eliminated? And he did it at the final table in front of Eric Repare. He was like, whoa. Didn't you get eliminated? And so it's like, I was just so happy to be there and so surprised that I was doing as well as I was, because Michigan is such a small pond and I'm such a big fish here that to think that the cooking that I'm doing could compare with people across the nation, it is truly flabbergasting. And it's not to say that I don't believe in myself or my team. I do. I believe in us wholeheartedly, but us, right? Not me as a singularity. And so putting it under the microscope of being just a single person on this journey, I carried a ton of self-doubt. Whereas somebody like Buddha came in day one and he was like, I'm going to the finale. Or Evelyn, she said, I'm going to make it to the finale. It's just a matter of whether or not I can knock it home in the finale. I just wanted to have, one day at a time and suck the marrow out of the experience and really enjoy it, because it was just I was so boggled and flabbergasted that I was there. And so people were like, she's so self-deprecating, or she's so surprised every time she wins. That's genuine. Like, I just am so thrilled to know that the food that we're making here when put to the test against other chefs across the nation, like the food that we're doing at Marrow, which is the food that I did for the whole competition, is worthy of praise because, you know, sometimes you just don't know. And Top Chef is a really great way to know.
It was great having you. It was great having you on the show. You were a sorely needed addition when you came back. And thank you for giving us time, especially given that you're at work and you're prepping.
I know.
I'm going to go eat some good San Francisco food. That's where I'm
Oh, damn it.
work. And we've had some really nice meals. You're right about, by the way, no middle ground.
Everybody can cook there.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no need for the middle market because everybody's like, well, I could make that better. And they're right. They probably could.
The great burrito, the great upmarket, my favorite Zuni chicken.
I heard. Yeah.
We had such a good time. Thanks for giving us time.
Yeah.
Tom, that wraps up another season. We will be back with you soon. Maybe we'll be inspired to do a rewatch. We shall see.
You got to help us get Buddha on the show. Can you make this happen, Sarah?
Yeah. He loves the show.
Okay.
I'll text him right now and I'll be like, listen, you got to do it.
Buddha, please come.
And he'll probably ignore me, but we'll try.
For Tom Haberstroh, for super producer Anthony Mays, this is Kevin Arnovitz, and this is Pack Your Knives.